Hi,
Hey,
Kristen.
Janine.
Hi, Kristen.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah.
I know you're
So,
getting ready for a big trip.
yeah, I am. I'm going to Mexico City, which I'm really excited
Oh,
about. So,
exciting. So
yeah,
jealous. That's gonna be
yeah.
awesome. But so I'm glad we got to record an episode before you left. And it got me there's something I wanted to ask you. So, I've dabbled in social media here and there, and I've like listened to a lot of influencers' advice. And a lot of influencers say like authenticity is key. And like you have to show up as your authentic self, and then the followers will just come. And that's kind of a buzzword though, and it's like, okay, what is authenticity really for me? And I just wondered if that is something that came into play for you, because you've been very successful on social media. Like, how do you approach authenticity, and is it something that has worked for you?
I think it's like I feel like authenticity is like one of those like overused like buzzwords that people say. And I have such a complicated relationship with authenticity because you feel like, oh, just be yourself, but it's not necessarily like just be yourself because you are creating content for a specific medium. Just like, if you're writing, you have to like clean up your writing so that it makes sense. It's not the same way that you would speak. Like, it's just not the same thing.
Yeah.
So there is like a little bit of adapting yourself for a particular medium. However, that said, I do get this feeling of like trusting my energy, like trusting that
Mm,
people will like my energy. And
mm,
that is something that I think about a lot because in the beginning I was like, well, I have to like expand, I have to be like extra, or I have to be happy, or I have to be, X, Y, and Z. And I was trying to change myself for particular people, but that doesn't work. And so,
mm.
but once I believe like, oh, I have good energy, like I know that I have good energy, like I'm just going to like lean into my energy and trust that, then things started to really kind of pop off.
Mm. A
So,
word that came to mind when you were talking is integrity. Maybe that's
integrity.
like a more accurate way of like integrity for yourself.
Yeah, like this is how I am, this is who I am, and like I'm not betraying myself.
Exactly.
So
That's
it's
what integrity means to me, is like not betraying your beliefs, not betraying yourself. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's really interesting.
yeah, and I know I have to say that as much as that sounds like when I do make content that is like when like I was doing like sales content and things like that, that was like really hard for me. And
Mhm.
and so I think that some people are more sensitive than others of like being inauthentic. I mean, not to say that it was inauthentic what I was saying, because I believed in everything that I said, but that like that creativity, that's not what was like lighting me up. And so, and like making content that make lights me up is like a little bit different than selling myself, which
I
I
totally get
feel
that.
feel weird about. But yeah, so it's
Yeah. Well, so Alicia Johnson is someone who I've written about a few times, and
mhm.
she just recently wrote a book, and she talks a lot about not a buzzword, but like a phrase that she uses a lot is revealing yourself to yourself. And
Ooh.
that's like really meaningful for her because she's a model, but she's also like a sexual abuse survivor, and writes a lot about trauma, and she's also very into style and has amazing personal style. So it's all these interesting things convening. And so I thought maybe she'd be good to talk to about this.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, I've heard about her. She's like really like yeah, so she's like a plus size mature model, and I think that that is like it's such a cool like combination intersection of like different things to be. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk
So
to her.
she should be interesting to talk to. Let's do it.
Okay. Hi, welcome to the Closet Philosophy podcast. This is Janine. I'm a personal stylist.
And this is Kristen. I'm a fashion writer, and we're here to uncover the ways that your personal style is so much more than just clothes.
Whether you realize it or not, what you wear touches on science, psychology, culture, politics, and so much more. Alicia Johnson is a model, global marketing strategist, and author of the book Buried Treasure, a field guide to the life-changing magic of revealing yourself. The book blends memoir, neuroscience, and practical exercises into a unique guide for trauma recovery. She draws from her own experience and the groundbreaking work of experts to help readers reveal their authentic selves. Alicia is currently signed with Ford Models and is the only mature plus-size model signed to a major agency. In her modeling research and writing, Alicia explores how to bring hope, play, imagination, and wonder back into our lives at any age. Alicia, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm super thrilled to be here. I love the work that you guys are doing, and I'm just super happy to be included. Thank you.
Yay! Oh, so
Yay.
cool. So glad you're here.
Yeah. So, Alicia, I thought we'd jump in by talking about your modeling a little bit.
Okay.
And I know you have a really great story about sort of the day you sort of jumped back into it, and there was like a lot of serendipity involved.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could just share that story with our readers. I think it's so great.
Sure. So let's see. It's a beautiful spring day, and I was just close to being done with my book. And so, in the title, it says the life-changing magic of revealing yourself. And I was a model in my 20s. And I thought, and I went behind the camera for the rest of my career. And I thought, if I'm going to be talking about this, I probably need to be in front of the camera again. And I was walking up Fifth Avenue, and I thought, oh, Ford is right here. If I think I should do it, then I should go knock on the door. So I did. And the serendipity comes in that the guard at the desk downstairs, I saw that, you need to have your ID. So I got mine out because someone who's there. So I showed my ID and said, I'm going up to Ford. And he looked down, he's like, you're not on the list. And I was like, oh, wait. And he was like, I'll add you. And I was like, cool, thanks. And I went up, and there was nobody at reception because, COVID, they closed that down. So it's just a sign, call. And the woman said, oh, no, we don't take walk-ins. You need to submit your pictures to this website. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I was leaving, and this man came running out. I was stepping into the elevator. This man came running out. He's like, have you been helped? Have you been helped? And I was like, well, yeah, I just was told that I need to submit my pictures. And he was to Curve. And he's like, I'm Curve. And he was kind of flustering. He just said, sit.
Oh,
okay. And so then I saw him and this other woman walk by. There's sort of a glass door to the back. And then he came out and said, would you like to meet my managing director? And I said, I would love to. And so I went and sat down with them, and we chatted. And I had signed with Ford just before I quit modeling in my 20s, but I never booked with them. And I always sort of regretted that. Like, I want to be back with Ford. So then they were asking me why? And I was like, because this is where I want to be. And so, sort of back and forth. And Nanda Rai, who's the managing director, she was like, well, I would offer you a contract right now. I was like, oh, okay, I would accept a contract right now. So she thought I was sort of shopping agencies or something. And no, I just wanted to go to Ford. And so we laughed and said, okay. And then they stopped, the three of them. They're like, but how did you get up here? And I said, oh, the guy added me to the list. And they just all stared at me. And they were like, nobody gets up here. Nobody. Like, one of our top models wasn't on the list, and they wouldn't let her up. And boy, did she throw a hissy fit. And so it was just this serendipitous thing. And when I went back downstairs to leave, it was a different guy at the desk. So it was sort of like in the movies when like an angel is sitting at the desk,
Yeah.
So I went in, and that's the way it went. So it's Paolo who was like, wait, sit. That's my favorite detail of the whole thing. His English isn't his first language. He speaks it beautifully, but when flustered, he goes to Portuguese. But all he could think of to say was sit.
Oh.
So I dutifully sat down.
Do you know, it sounds like they were looking for a mature plus size model at that moment, no?
Oh, no,
No.
they liked well, they liked my look, I guess. And then
Yeah.
they liked that the reason I was coming back was because of my book. And that, I felt like it was necessary to be seen and to advocate, but whether you're in front of a camera as your career or not, but to advocate for people to be seen and to sort of show up for themselves. So they loved that. They loved that aspect of why I was coming to them.
They loved your story, it sounds like.
Yes.
That you had a story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not just like, I don't know, I think I'm pretty. Don't you think you should take pictures of me? It's like, no, like more like there's a story to be told here. So
And that's so interesting because you just think of a big modeling agency like Ford and you think like they just want the prettiest face, the most sellable face. Like, you wouldn't imagine
The
that they would
youngest.
value the story so much. But that's really cool to hear that they did.
they absolutely do. And I think that it's both the ethics of the ethos of both Nanda and Paolo, but I think it's also at a more macro level the wisdom of the agency that we live in a story world. We've, the market has changed so much, and the job of being a presence for a brand is as much about your own story as it is, your look, or the pictures, the
Yeah.
static images. It's the story that spreads out. So I think from a business standpoint, it's quite important as well.
Yeah. And so how is it going? Are you getting any bookings at this point or how's that going? No. So, because
No.
last time I talked to you, you were not, and you had some ideas about why that is. I mean, being the only one in your category and not getting booked kind of says some things. So,
Yeah, I
what
think
does it
so.
say?
Without being a ranter or anything like that.
Oh, please rant.
Okay, so I think that what it is that culturally we have become very accustomed to curvy bodies being beautiful and acceptable on young women. And and younger people and culture in general, it's very normal. But when you look at what we still deem to be a beautiful, successful older woman, if you just look across the boards, a beautiful older woman is thin. And
Mm.
it's like when I was modeling, I was modeling when in the 80s. That was like heroin chic sort of era, and like that's sort of the ethos of that generation. You can never be too rich or too thin.
Mm.
And I don't think that the embrace of a curvy body as you age has kept up. And it's almost like a curvy body for older women is as though you've let yourself go.
Mm.
It's like that, that's the look at her, like
Yeah,
she hasn't really, like if you really look at the visuality of beautiful older women, it's always quite thin.
Mm. Yeah.
definitely. I've noticed that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've also noticed that, yeah, I mean, it's like when they have, oh, you're aging well, it's
Exactly.
like you're aging a very specific way.
Yes.
It's like, you never see like jowls or like creping in the neck, or it's always like crow's feet
Belly.
is an acceptable wrinkle to have, and like maybe some of these what do they call these? Nasal
These
labio
the labio folds or
folds
something like
I
that.
or
like them
some
as laugh lines.
laugh
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 lines. That's much
lines.
better.
Laugh lines, I love that. And so, and also like the skin texture is like very specific. It's like this smooth skin texture. And then you can have gray hair, but it has to be like the hair has to be a certain texture. It's like that's what it looks like, but that's like not how most people age.
No,
And
no.
so, and then also we were talking with another podcast guest, Isabel Schofield, and she was saying that, with men, they have this like this whole like kind of thing about like the silver fox and like the silverbacks
Right.
for like men. But for women, it's like as we age, like we don't have this like, like, oh, like I have my power middle or something like that. It's like
Exactly.
this, which I
Yeah.
think is something that happens to a lot of women. And like for the most part, like anytime a woman says that she feels frumpy, a lot of times that is like coupled with weight gain.
Yes.
And so I think that's really interesting. And a lot of people say like, oh no, I don't think so. But
Oh, I
most
think
of the
so.
time, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like, as a personal stylist, anytime I hear a woman say that, like it's usually like in regards to
Right. It's
her,
almost like exact code.
yeah, it's a
From
dog
being
whistle.
like, yeah, I have to wear my fat jeans, or like I need a little bit more blousing in my shirt, or that, it's like it's very specific, and it's kind of sad, like we're not taking care of the next generation by doing that. Like, is the next generation going to hit a wall where suddenly, like, what it was cool for me to be curvy when I was 30, but now I just look frumpy, I look dowdy, all of those things. So yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's not nice
I know.
Yeah.
for
And
doing.
you've mentioned that if a change is going to happen, those making the decisions need to come to terms with sort of their own aging because it's older women who are in power here. These are your words, not mine.
Mhm.
But it's the older women who are in power,
Mhm.
and maybe they can't accept even themselves aging. And so to see it in someone else or a model that they're going to hire is
Right.
just like too much.
Right. It's almost like, so it's interesting to me how often, just when you're out on the street, life, and who comments on like, wow, that skirt is awesome, or I love your haircut, those kinds of things. I would say that for me, it's dominantly younger women that comment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, like I notice, this is such a funny thing to talk about, but I notice like older women 100% check me out, head to toe, especially
Mhm.
stylish women,
Mhm.
and it's sort of like this scan of, and maybe I'm imagining it, but on a not infrequent basis. Like if you're like, I'm in the city, and like a very stylish, beautiful older woman like my age, but thin, all of those things, does a complete scan. There's almost a judgment of, why do you get to look cool? You didn't,
Mm.
like, you haven't worked as hard as I have to stay, fit, or those kinds of
Mhm.
things. So it's like,
Yeah.
to
Is it?
so I'm playing back my words
Yeah.
to you, playing my words back to me, but
Yeah.
I think that it's sort of like a older curvy woman is cheating. Like,
Mm.
why do you get to be okay with that when I've had to live to these rules?
It's kind of like a who do you think you are
Yeah,
vibe.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
It's
right.
so interesting because I feel like that is so steeped in patriarchy. It's like this pitting women against each other. It's like, like some women, like, oh, like who do you think you are? Because like you get to be cool and like I have to work hard or I have to be. And it's like, who is it that said it's a feminist quote? Like diet culture is not about health, it's about obedience.
Oh, interesting. I don't know who said
Yeah.
that, but I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think I want to say almost like one of the old like
Like Gloria
original
Steinem or
feminists.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but not Gloria Steinem, like Simone de Beauvoir. I can never say her name.
Oh,
Yeah, or somebody like that. I
Thunderbolt.
don't know who it is. I have to look it up. Naomi Wolf.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
That's
A
big.
Oh,
culture
yeah.
fixated on thinness is not an obsession about female beauty, but an obsession about female obedience. Dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history.
Well, there you
Mm.
go.
Yeah,
Seriously, like
yeah.
a big shift for me happened actually coming out of writing Buried Treasure, is that I completely shifted my perspective from anything to do with diet per se to movement.
Mm.
And it was during COVID that I was writing. So I got a Pilates machine, not so much because of exercise per se, but I did this quick research that what did people who were incarcerated come out, what did people do that came out of incarceration well? Because I thought of COVID as sort of an incarceration.
Mm.
And they had a daily learning practice, a daily spiritual practice, and a daily movement practice. And so I was like, well, I can do that. So Pilates machine was my daily movement. And then that sort of shifted into swimming. And so I think that, and that's been amazing for me. So my mind and my body, much better than dieting. I think dieting turns you into a crazy person, just, obsessive and unhappy and, just not,
Yep.
not fun to be around. So, and, like going swimming turns you into a fun person to be around.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That is like, I mean, because it's like the movement is like also like it regulates your nervous system.
Yes.
And it helps you actually feel better doing the movement as well. So it's not, and like dieting is more about like deprivation, and like movement is more about abundance, like in a
Yes,
sense, like not to
absolutely.
hijack like manifestation techniques, but like I feel like there's something there when you're doing a positive, then it's like it leads you to be more happy than going at like a deprivation type
Yes. That
mentality.
that means that there's something wrong with you rather than that you're healthy and able and like just doing your thing. You're just you're focusing on what you perceive to be something that's wrong with you. And
Mhm.
that rarely, I don't know, it rarely turns out well.
Mm.
Whatever that thing is that you obsess on, it just doesn't turn out well.
I'd love to talk a little bit more about your book. Can you just tell us sort of a little bit more about what was your inspiration for writing the book and what do you hope readers will take away from it?
Well, so the inspiration for it was it's a little bit funny. I usually am a novelist, and this is a nonfiction book, but I didn't really have like writer's block, but I had what I've in retrospect been able to refer to as an authenticity block. So I was writing for a character who was sort of more evolved in around trauma. So just I'll cut to the chase here. My personal trauma. I was raped for several months when I was 5 by my paternal grandfather. So and so early childhood sexual abuse has its own sort of thread of uh, long shadow and that kind of thing. And I tried to write the book that was about trauma and holding in my heart, which is very genuine, that I believe that each of us has experienced the worst thing in our life. So my trauma is no bigger than your trauma because it's the biggest thing in your life is your 100%. The biggest thing in my life is my 100%. See what I mean? So
Hmm.
I tried to make sure that the book was written, or I did my best to hold that in my heart, that anybody that's reading it isn't comparing to like, oh, well, that didn't happen to me kind of thing. So anyway, the novel I was working on, the principal character is sort of shepherding a young woman through a moment of revelation around her own experience. And I just thought, wow, I don't actually have the personal knowledge to do that. And so I went back to all of my research, like, I turned 65 this summer. So it's like I have, you know, 40 years of notes and research. And like, now who was that person I went to see? Just all the things I've tried. So anyway, I thought as my COVID practice, so my learning practice was synthesizing all of my research and all of that in service of this character. And then I thought, gosh, this is actually super valuable information. And if I link it to my life experiences and I'm willing to tell my own story, then there's there's good information here for anyone who's sort of moving through the process of like, yeah, I'm good, like, and I focused it on the things that tend to be tamped down in your brain clinically are the things that you need to recover, so like play and creativity and connection and, all of those things. So the book is really focused on using fun and play and the things that you really want to do. It isn't a sad book, it's pretty upbeat. So that's how it came about. And then, so I use my own story as a narrative thread so that it's got a memoir aspect to it, but it's not straight memoir. Mm-hmm. And then because I have always been so fascinated with how our brains work in relationship to really how we live in the world, how we behave, what happens, but then particularly around trauma, I wanted to include the brain science so that people thinking through things would be able to ground things, sort of like what we were talking about before, where it's not going to do you any good to go on a diet. You're just going to obsess on feeling bad. Mm-hmm. So like if you know what's going on in your brain, you can kind of work with yourself. So I refer to it as making friends with your brain instead of your brain working against you. Mm-hmm. Your brain is this magically malleable, and right up here is just, it's pure magic. And if you sort of bring your brain online with you through fun and things that you really want to do, movement in particular that you really want to do, all kinds of magical things happen. You're creating new neural pathways and you're changing the hormone structure. And, so making your brain your friend, it changes a lot. So that I thought, okay, well, that's a valuable thing to share. One of the main things that's true for this is that if you can gather your facts, and like for myself, for instance, I know that if I sort of start to spin out in general in life, there's a certain kind of spin out that I'm not trusting my facts. I'm starting to like spin a little bit. So if I just go back to my facts, then I can trust myself. So, trust is a huge part of things. And I'm sure that there's little bits of this that stick for you guys as you're thinking about like how you work. Like if you don't trust yourself in a situation, it's hard for you to be your best. So I'm a word geek. The word trust is from the Latin and it's confidare, which is trust. It's trusting oneself. So self-confidence is really self-trust. Mm-hmm. So, do you trust that you'll behave well in a situation, that you'll succeed, all those things. Mm-hmm. So building trust is foundational to sort of moving through and being able to show up as yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's, and bringing, so, and the last part, word geek again, is hope. And I've sort of debated with people in my life over the years, like, I love the word optimism. I think it's great, but I find it to be quite passive, and that I came upon this quote by an Irish poet that hope is not optimism. Optimism expects a positive outcome, where hope is your dedication to doing the work for something that you believe matters. So that's like, hope is an active state, and that active state is what changes your brain. It calls in your sense of agency. So instead of being sort of passive and you like, I think it'll turn out great. Well, you're not working toward anything. You haven't identified what you're committed to, and you haven't switched your brain into your active agency. So I'm a super fan and an advocate of using hope instead of optimism, because if you're optimistic and things don't turn out well, you don't really have much to lean on. You don't have much to trust. Whereas if you're hopeful about something and you know that you're dedicated to doing the work for it, if something goes wrong, it doesn't mean that you don't still believe in that thing or don't believe in the work that you're doing, that you had one thing didn't turn out, and but you're in charge, and you can figure out how to pivot. You can figure out what else to do in service of that thing that matters to you.
I
So
love
Yeah. I think
so
that's a reason why I really dislike the idea of fate,
yeah,
because it's like you're just kind of leaving everything to whatever.
yeah,
And like no matter what you do, that's your fate. So
right.
I really and I think that's why I don't like horoscopes too. And like any kind of sort of, kind of not to badmouth New Age, but like kind of like very woo-woo things that tell you like this is the way it's going to turn out for you just because of like whatever, some
These things,
arbitrary thing.
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I agree. And
It takes away your power.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And that power or personal agency is it's it's the most powerful thing that we have, that and
Mhm.
when we give it up, and we do so often voluntarily, we just,
Mm.
giving our power away left and right. And yeah, I think that understanding it, and and then understanding how powerful it is, like in the physical of your brain. Like once you switch into that part of your brain, into the personal agency aspect of yourself, you're working in a completely different way. So
Mm.
it's, yeah, you're in charge.
Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like what you're saying is like authenticity is also in trusting yourself.
Yes.
When you're trusting yourself, that's when you show up in a way that is like, yeah, like I know I'm not going to betray myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've done a lot of thinking about the way that people talk about authenticity. And I had a real problem with it for a while, the word, because it felt like it was
Mm.
overused. And I needed to come to terms with it on this book, because it's intrinsically so important, and it had taken on so much, I don't want to say baggage, but sort of like what you were saying about like a little bit of woo woo, but showing up as yourself, and having confidence in who you are, and that what you have to say has value, and you'll represent your own ideas well. That's a very powerful place to be. And it doesn't have anything to do with how educated you are, or
Mhm.
how traditionally attractive, but if
Mhm.
you show up and you are who you are, and you use the wisdom that you have from the life that you've led, it intrinsically has value.
Mm. I love
I
that. I
think
love
that's a
that.
really challenging thing sometimes, authenticity. I also was kind of struggling with that word a lot when I first sort of got involved with social media, and so many influencers would say, just be authentic, be your authentic self, and your followers will come. And that word was repeated over and over, but it's like you act like it's so easy to be authentic. Like first you have to know who your authentic self is.
Yeah,
Like you have to, that's kind of a bit of work to do before you
absolutely.
can like just show up as your authentic self. Like it's not so easy, but it was like thrown out there, like just do that and you'll be, there'll be an overnight success or whatever. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I know. I struggle with that too, because like sometimes when I make videos and I'm just talking like this, they don't do as well as when I am
Mm,
making have the stylized for social media voice where it's like
Right.
where I speak faster, stronger, all of these things, but
mm,
it's not like how I like authentically am. And I feel like
interesting.
okay, well, it's still me, but it's like, I went to school for typography, and one of the
Oh,
things that that's what my degree is in, and like one of the things that was said is like typography is idealized handwriting, or like letter, like the printed word is like typography is idealized handwriting, and writing is idealized speech. And so anytime you write, it's not really necessarily like how you would speak. It's more like an idealized version because you're not saying your likes and your ums and you're not kind of meandering. There's like structure and there's
Right.
all of these things. So, you know, at the core, it's like, what is authenticity? If, you know, when a lot of things that we do is somehow manipulated and packaged for the
Right.
particular medium.
Right.
And so like I guess like underneath that is that going back to what you said earlier, it sounds like what you're saying is like that self-trust that yeah, this is an idealized version of myself in some way, but I trust myself that it's not a betrayal of myself.
Yes, exactly. And,
Mm.
I think that clothes are a perfect expression of that. That
Mhm.
like you can go out on a limb on something you're going to wear and it's not a betrayal of yourself. And boy, do we know it when we put on something that is, this is not me, or like
Mhm.
Yeah.
ready to go and it's like, I'm not feeling it. And like your friends say it looks great and you're like, nope, not me, not doing
Mhm.
it. And other times you wear something that is maybe not as fabulous, but you feel so in it and amazing. And, it's sparky, so
Mhm.
I think it's so subjective and ephemeral what that authentic aspect is. And if you trust yourself, I think your expression of it is great that if you trust that you'll feel it when you're betraying it, that's maybe a good boundary. I have
Mhm.
this mnemonic for myself that yes is an expression of our leadership and no is an expression of our power.
Mhm.
So like when you're getting into that authentic, zone, or being able to trust it, it's like, do I feel like saying yes or do I feel like saying no to this? And
Mhm.
Mm.
if you genuinely listen to your yeses and your nos, you're probably going to be okay.
It's so funny because I actually have like an exercise in my style lessons for whenever I run into clients who are always second guessing themselves.
Uh-huh.
We have this exercise called the two pieces.
Ah,
And what this is I ask them to get a piece that they love and they feel really good in, and a piece that they have problems with. And then like when I have them like hold the piece that they love and say like, okay, take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Remember a time when you wore it. Like, how are you feeling? Like, where is it in your body?
yes.
Like, yes. And so, like, do you like how, what is your face doing? Are you smiling? Is your face relaxed? Like, how's your head feeling? How's your heart feeling? How's your stomach feeling? What are your shoulders doing? And all of these things. And then they're like, okay, okay. And then, we talk like a little bit about it. And then I said, okay, now put that down. Like that's your yes. That's what yes feels like to you. Now pick up the thing that gives you problems. And almost immediately, every person goes, their shoulders scrunch
Yep.
up and their face scrunches up. And I was like, okay, notice. That's what your body is doing. Your body tells you, and like if you're having a hard time getting in touch with, do I trust myself? Like I don't know, like and you're always second guessing yourself. Like your body is never lies.
Yep. It's
Like
true. And if you pay attention to that and where you feel it,
hmm
and you know,
I mean we're all kind of similar, but everybody's like slightly different.
totally different. Like I
Yeah.
was thinking when you were talking about it, it's like, so I'm a creative director and I would give briefs on music for film a lot,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I got really good at is thinking through for a piece of music what effect I wanted it to have on the viewer or the listener. And so I would talk about music and I want people to move their shoulders when they're watching this, or I want it in their hips.
Mhm.
Like this is a loinal product, like they
Mhm.
really need it to feel there. Or I want toe tapping or like snappy, so like if you can get familiar with what creates certain physical reactions and where and how, I think
Mm.
that that's a great thing. And, and like when you were describing the two pieces, I was kind of translating it into body parts, like things, clothes that make me uncomfortable. Like it's usually in particular areas, like
Mm.
I got a made to measure suit, and it's Tom Brown, and the style, the cut is close, very close. And I was talking with the tailor, and I said that for me, if there's any pull on a button at my breast, no. Like I like that. I think it looks amazing on women and on men, like the tighter jacket, but on women who, I don't know, they could be big busted, but they carry it off. But for
Mm.
me, a tight button at my breast is like it doesn't fit. My boobs are too big. Like my shoulders start to go forward, all of those things where
Totally.
like you feel insecurity in. I think that if we pay attention, and it's one of the things in my book, is really paying attention physically, marking it up on line art of bodies, like where do I feel this in my body, and like how do you move that part of your body to move things through, and that kind of thing. So
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
clothes are a huge part of that. And
Yeah.
if you're super comfortable with your shoulders, like let them show. But some people are like, no, my back is bony, or, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so
But I also think there's a differentiation between the two. Like, where do you feel it in your body? Because sometimes people take it very like literally, like, oh, I don't like it if it's constricting in my shoulders, or I
right.
don't like it. And like, yes, but also, where do you feel the emotion in your body?
That's what, yes.
Like are you feeling it in your heart? Or you feel like I always do this thing with my face where I scrunch my face, like when I don't like something, like I scrunch my face and my lips go to like one side, and like I'm just like, I don't like, and like that's what I do when I don't like something. And so like, but everybody is different. And like this is also something because like, and I feel like this is also, maybe we should have said this earlier, but like because it's fairly new in the mental health industry where people your emotions in your body are one and the same. Like your emotions are physical reactions
Mhm.
that are happening in your body. So like when you are feeling an emotion, that is actually like something is happening in your body,
Mhm.
and it's like part of it is in your mind, yes, but it's like like your heart is racing when you're excited, like
Right.
you get butterflies in your stomach, or you feel like that like love, you feel it in your chest, right? Or wherever you feel, or like you get scared, there's like the hairs on it's like all of these little things like happen in your body.
Right.
We're so used to ignoring that because we're, from an early age, we're told like, don't be scared, don't be sad, don't be mad, don't get too excited, don't be too much. And so what you learn is to ignore your emotions and ignore what's happening in your body. So
Yes.
for a lot of people, they have a really hard time tuning into like, where am I feeling this in my body?
Yes, absolutely. Just being able to identify it is half the work, but
Mhm.
knowing that where you feel it, what it's causing, ways that you can deal with it. Yes, well, I'm 100%.
Yeah, and I think it's also it when you recognize where that is manifesting in your body, it really forces you to really face what the emotion is. Like it's that connection that is kind of like, oh, and because my therapist used to do that to me, and I would get so annoyed. Like I have these memories of I'd be telling her something and I'd be really like worked up about it, and I'd be like talking fast and like this, and she'd be like, "Okay, take a pause. Like feel yourself in your seat. Take a breath. Like what are you feeling?" And I'd be like, "But I was trying to tell you something." Like I would get so annoyed because I did not want to like stopping and noticing all that was obviously a technique she was using to help me work through what was bothering me, but I like it was hard. It was hard, it was making me face everything, and I did not like that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it also might have been a better technique to let you finish your sentence before asking you to stop.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, that
Like,
would have been
it's a quick
better.
way to a punch from you
Maybe.
to be interrupted.
Yeah. So true. I mean, yeah, I used to hate when they said, okay, now breathe. And I'd be
Mm.
like, fuck you. Like, like don't tell me. Like, I still do that anytime to anybody. Like, I need to feel my emotions now. But at the same time, like actually like slowing down your breath slows down your heart rate. So
Yeah,
breathe slow. It literally slows down your heart rate. And when your heart is beating slower, your brain thinks like, oh, I'm safe now. And
yeah.
so, and that's what triggers that thing, and that kind of helps you to get over that, that trigger that, when you get triggered into fight and flight and stuff. I don't, yeah, I got really into this during COVID. So,
Well, and I
so
mean, we all had to,
yeah,
we were all
yeah,
in, absolute, meltdown.
yeah.
So,
So I like don't want to end this without talking just like a bit about your personal style. Like I know
okay.
that's like taking it to a totally different, but
Yeah.
like
Well,
I
this is a
know that
personal
you,
style thing, so we
I
have
know,
to we have to talk about your styles, which
yeah,
is,
and
by
I
the way,
know
if
that
you
you have
don't.
amazing personal style.
Yeah,
So
and for those of you who are at home, she has an amazing haircut.
amazing.
With these like short micro bangs and like this perfect bob, a short bob, and it's so cute and silver hair. So yeah, so okay, go ahead, Kristen. I just wanted to tell people.
Yeah, yeah, and look at our YouTube if you want to actually see us. Um, but yeah, I just would love to like if you maybe just briefly talk about your personal style evolution. Has it changed over the years, like as you've become more authentic and like comfortable in your own skin? How has your personal style changed?
Well, it's funny. My husband and I are moving right now. We're selling our
Mm.
house. So I thought that I had lost, when I was modeling when I was young, it was pre-digital. So, you had a physical portfolio and tear sheets and that kind of stuff. And I thought it was all gone. But I found a box of it when we were going through stuff. And so to your question of this, has my style evolved much? And it's hysterically no. It's like I mean, my hair does one thing. It's super straight. So I've had a short, I've had pretty much a bob of one length or another and bangs, that kind of thing. But and I have on overalls right now, and I've worn some level of overalls for, ever. And I have like I call them my dress overalls. So or like work, but it's partly because of the work that I do. I like to have pockets and things like that. But I think my style, my personal style, how I get dressed, that kind of thing, is really similar to how I cook. So it's kind of based on like, oh, I have this thing that needs to be like, I have something that if I don't cook it, it's going to go bad. Or, like, oh, I need to use this avocado today. Or, so, and then that avocado becomes sort of not necessarily the center of a meal, but like, well, I could make, it just starts sending you off in creative territories of, what you're going to do. So that's sort of how my, my daily style evolves too. Like I need to wear tennis shoes because I'm going to be in the city walking 7 miles and I don't want, I don't want to wear sandals because my feet will hurt. So, okay, now I need to put an outfit together around these shoes, or, so it's super pragmatic starting point and then all bets are off. So it's a super playful way to go about it. I think the one thing that's changed as I've aged is I have the option of a little bit more designer pieces in my wardrobe. So I was joking with a friend the other day that when I was young, I bought Canal Street knockoff bags.
Mm.
And once you buy a real bag, there's no going back. Like
Yeah,
so this
so
Right.
true.
and so that's a big change of like having a custom made suit. Like I don't have 10 of them, but I have one and that is extraordinary and that I use in a variety of ways. And I think the other thing that's changed is having a tailor, an alterations person, but also a tailor in my life that I know really well. And
Mm.
so like things like I just took to Yoji Yamamoto a jacket and a coat to a tailor to just have refined the fit, because they're exquisite pieces, and I just felt like they would be more amazing to wear if there was some customization to them.
Mm.
So I think that, or and like these overalls that I have on were made by a woman that I work with all the time. So I find pieces that I like and then work with her to sort of reinvent them in different fabrics or things like that, so that I can play, and also that I'm not limited by what is exactly available. So
Mm.
that's something that I grew up with, like having to make my own clothes. I went to fashion design school for a little while just because I needed to, I didn't like the work of it. I've always needed to make my own things because they're like the coolest thing isn't necessarily available to me.
Mm.
So I think that's it's not so nice, but it also turns you into a more creative person, I think.
Or creative dresser.
Yeah.
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 And like I'm very active in finding people that I can work with to make things that I want.
That's so cool. I
That's
love
really
that.
cool.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just it's a very, I mean, it's a privilege, but it's also really cool that you do that, that you honor yourself and your taste and what you like, and that you go and you make that happen. So it's really cool.
It is a
So
privilege. And that's one of the, so when I was younger, I made them myself, or my mom made things for me a lot. So yeah, so to be able to sort of carry that tradition forward and work with artisans, it's amazing. It's really fun.
ah,
Cool.
yay.
Alicia, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you
Fun.
so much. And so where can people find
Oh,
you?
Well, they can find me on my website, alicialjohnson.com. It's ELLE, and that's the same handle as my Instagram page, and it's the same handle as my Substack. So it's just, if you remember Alicia L. Johnson, you'll find me. My site has updates on events and where my book is available and all that kind of stuff. And then very soon I get to start playing with my Instagram page a bit more. It's been very dedicated to my book, but my husband and I, when we're taking a gap year when we move, so we don't know where we're going.
oh, that's
Oh,
exciting.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm super psyched. So I think I'm gonna play with it a bit more. You know,
Excellent. Well, we'll look out for that for sure.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know where we're gonna end up, but it will be
Wow.
Misses from the Edge.
Yeah, well, please post on your Instagram so we can follow along on your adventures.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
Awesome.
cool.
Thank
Well,
you
it
so much, you
was
guys.
such
It's
a
been super fun. I really enjoyed it.
yes,
Thank
such a
you,
pleasure to
Alicia.
meet you. All right, thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.